And got Leo here to brag about it tonight. We're really pleased about that. I think, Catherine, did you have any announcements tonight to me?
Yeah, just in case we have any more glitches with our computers, always find out every month our member meeting information is on our website. You can log in and sign up right there if you'd like to. There's always information that's out there. Become a member or to register for our meeting.
And David, did you have any announcements about upcoming?
Yep, our speaker in December has just been confirmed. Julie Hardy is going to speak on environmental things inside the house, air quality, everything that they know from a medical point of view, what affects people. And she just agreed as of yesterday to present to us for Christmas. That locks up everything for this 09.
And traditionally, the Christmas dinner is we encourage you to bring spouses and partners along with it. We try to keep the topic more related to general population and interest for general population, not necessarily just the industry. So they're always really good speakers. And just a reminder that our next meeting is, we don't have an official teca meeting, a dinner meeting. It's taking place everything's going to be done through this at the CIFEX
Trade show.
Trade show. Is the words I'm looking for. So we invite you all. That's November 5th. Is it, Leo?
I don't know.
Yeah, November 5th.
Go to 5 of them.
November 5th is the CIFEX, and it's at the Italian Cultural Center, and it starts at
It starts at 2 o'clock, and
2
you can register for free online at ciph.com. It's a free show.
Yeah, so no meeting here next month, but we'll look forward to seeing you back here in December.
Yeah.
And with that, I invite Leo to take the floor.
Thank you, Leo.
I thought maybe the guys got a smoke break before we have to start. We don't do that anymore, eh?
It's not politically correct.
It's not politically correct. Well, give me a minute and I'll get this thing started up, because I shut it down because I was in such a hurry to get here. I left my plug at home, so just grabbed the laptop and left. What I'm going to talk about, of course, is the new guidelines. You've probably seen the fancy looking unit up there. That's what they look like. Okay, and I'm going to go through it a little bit about where these things come from, how far we've gone in the last 20 odd years. If everything works right, we'll be fine. It's pretty amazing. I was putting this thing together. Of course, I never do anything until the last minute, so I started about noon today. We put it all together. It's pretty amazing when I look at the very first edition of the guidelines compared to where we are now. And this is only one step. There's another manual that's going to come out January, maybe. And it's basically a manual of just all drawings, nothing else but drawings in it. And that's probably got, I think there's about 350 drawings in there or something like that. So I can find where I am here. See, it's pretty dull, eh? Without the battery.
For the presentation or the screen?
Both.
My glasses?
I need something. I'm trying to find what I did with my presentation. Just bear with me a second. The keypad's a little touchy. I hit it and I end up in places I don't want to go. See what I mean? I didn't want to open that. That's for later.
We'll just minimize it.
This mouse doesn't seem to be working either. Company computer has so many things that open up at the start with all the protection and stuff on it. I get impatient sometimes when I start clicking around. Things go crazy. So,
Watching you.
hey?
They're watching you.
Oh, I'm sure they are, yeah. I'm sure they are. And where would you like me to stand, sir?
Right in front of the screen.
Right in front of the screen? Let's see if this will work. I got to stand over there. I'll have to play with this. This here is, as you can see, is the 8th edition of the guidelines. And I'm going to try and make this mouse work from over here. I got 2 new things this week. A new projector and a mouse to go with it, because they didn't send me the remote, so now they sent me the mouse, so I don't know how anything works. So we'll start with this. First, I want to go through a little bit of history with the guidelines. For one thing, the guidelines first came out in 1988. We were forced as an industry to come up with some kind of standard because a couple of municipalities in the Lower Mainland had like about 20 outstanding lawsuits for heating systems that didn't heat the buildings, and they were being sued because the building code said you had to maintain 72 degrees, and they were lucky if they could get 60 out of it. So they said, either come up with some standards, or are we going to ban radiant floor heating, which at that point was really in the growth stage, so we didn't want to lose it, right? And it was a pretty comfortable heating system when they did work. So the first guidelines consisted of basically 8 pages, and I have them here. If you can believe it or not, I actually have a copy of them. This is what they look like. Lousy little type piece of paper with 3 drawings in them, and that was it. That was the guidelines. We had 3 systems. We had basically we had 3-way mixing valve, injection valve, and a 4-way mixing valve. And those were the 3 types of drawings that we offered the city as a way to do heating systems. And when you see the new drawings, you'll see how far we've got and how many we have. So that's what the new ones look like. This was the drawings in them. And I don't know if any of you have been around long enough to remember those drawings, and they're actually changed quite a bit now. But you can see there, we didn't bother putting anything on the end. We just put a drawing out, and that's the way you go. And you had to use those drawings to do your heating system. They wouldn't accept anything else. That was the way to go. So that was the 3 drawings. And the extent of the book was 8 pages, probably 2 pages of index, another 2 pages of who worked on the book, because everybody wanted credit for it, including members of, believe it or not, we had members of HRAI helping us. We had members of CIPH helping us. Fred Myers was actually the chairman of HRAI out there. That goes way back. So the first city to officially implement the guidelines was the city of Richmond. We had to put 3 more drawings in. Okay, we said 3 drawings wasn't enough. The city of Richmond wanted 3 drawings that also showed radiant heating only, because apparently people were putting jobs in with no baseboard at the time. And that was kind of a new thing. Who was just going to do radiant, right? So we had to put new drawings in, so we made a special issue just for the city of Richmond. Subsequently, we added a little more text and a whole lot more drawings as we went on. The second edition had 17 drawings. So we went from 3 drawings to 6 for the city of Richmond, and then up to 17. Okay. The third edition came out in '93. Same amount of drawings, changed the format a little bit, that kind of stuff. Then what we had is a 4th edition. We've now jumped to 38 drawings. Okay. And you know what I put on there? See, still hand drawn. Okay, we weren't in the computers yet. I actually drew them with a pen and pencil. You know, the way we went. I still have those drawings as well. I'm a collector. We put a few more tables in because one of the other problems we started running into, okay, we had these drawings, but what size pipe do we use? And the inspectors had no idea what size pipe they were supposed to use. They were using the plumbing code for flow rates and stuff. Well, that didn't quite work because, you know, we didn't want 7-8 feet per second flowing through a heating system, you know. So we had to come up with tables. So we put tables in, pipe sizing, with the right velocities, those kinds of things in them. And then in '98, we put out the 5th edition, which was basically just some text changes, that sort of thing. They kept growing and growing. In '99, we introduced the combo guidelines. We had a little bit of talk about this earlier, using water heaters to heat your house, right? So we had to come up with some guidelines on how that was being done, because pretty much everyone that went in failed. People are putting your regular 33-gallon gas water heater in, and now they're doing domestic water and the heating system. Why wouldn't it work? House only needs 100,000 BTUs, right? So we put out some guidelines for that, along with help from BC Gas at the time, which is now Terrazin Gas. We also had some help with, trying to think of a gas company in Ontario at the time, Consumers Gas, I believe, in Ontario. They had some guidelines out that we used a little bit. In 2005, we came out with the 7th edition, which was a big departure from what we were doing before, because we were doing complete drawings before. In 2005, we thought, how the hell can we just keep coming up with more and more drawings so people can do every system that they can think of? And there's a lot. You know, I mean, people have imagination; they can go anywhere with this stuff. It's probably the thing that gets hydraulics in the most trouble. You know, when you're doing forced air, you have a box, stick a plenum on top, you size the ductwork properly, which apparently is a big problem these days. You're okay. But in hydraulics, I mean, you can throw any kind of piping in there, all over the damn place. So we had to come up with a way to do it. So we introduced component drawings where you pick your boiler, your mixing system, you're adding domestic water, and all those pieces together. For us in the industry, seemed to be a good idea. It was like a puzzle. Here's all the pieces you need. Out in the field, it was a little bit different. It seems that if the stuff wasn't connected together, they weren't quite sure how to do that. And some of the inspectors were having trouble telling whether or not it was all done. So what we've done with the 8th edition is we've gone back to complete drawings, and I'll show you those in a minute. But the guidelines that were created here were the only guidelines in North America, if you can believe it, where we do any. We're still pretty much the only province that does full tilt inspections, and not everybody does it in the province, but in a lot of parts of the province they do. Most of the country, it's do whatever you want, and away you go. In the U.S., it's the same thing. In the U.S., we have what they call the Radiant Panel Association. They adopted our guidelines from BC. Changed them, of course, and said they made them, but basically word for word, the same as ours. And also in Alberta, they have the Alberta Hydronics Advisory Committee, which is what, by the way, we were called when we first started too, was the BC Hydronics Advisory Committee. So they even copied our name. But that's okay. Flattery, right? Then we became RHWHA, then we became teca. So there's a little history lesson. This is the U.S. guidelines. You can see they basically use the same name for the guidelines as well. They went with a little different format on the drawings. There were little squiggly lines and stuff. So, but basically their drawings were exactly the same as ours, just drawn a little bit differently, as you'll find many times. Many times that's the case. Drawings all look different, but they're all exactly the same. We've always offered the ability for people to send us a drawing in if they have their own system that they would like to do. I've been on that committee since '88. And I can tell you of the hundreds of drawings that we've had requests to do, we've probably only actually approved about a dozen, because they've already existed in the guidelines. They just look different. They say, use this drawing and you're off on your way, right? So now that's going to be even more so the case. So this is the '89. This is when we made the change, and we went to a couple of more drawings. '91, a little fancier cover. Drawings changed a little bit, just a little bit neater. A couple more things in there. You can see the capacities for pipe is now on the tables and stuff like that. We expanded that later. '93, that's the next edition. You can see the drawings get a little fancier now. We actually put the tanks and the baseboard in the drawings, which caused us a lot of grief. You think, oh, well, it's fine and dandy, but what if you weren't hooking baseboard up? What if you were hooking rads up or a unit heater or something like that? Well, now you had to get a special drawing done because the inspectors said that's for baseboard, it wasn't for a unit heater. So we changed the name later to heat emitter, trying to avoid everything altogether. Now we get on the 4th edition, pretty much the same. A couple more tables. You can see we start to add more and more information, priority on water heaters, domestic indirect tanks, things like that. Because for a while, the cities would say, you got domestic water heater and you got a heating system. So now we want a boiler that can give you your $50,000 for the domestic and your $100,000 for the house. And we said, well, no, we don't want to do that. We want to give you one appliance, downsize it, and prioritize. So we had to come up with drawings so that they would accept that, and that's what we ended up doing. Then in '99, the combo guidelines, we just took them, put them in the same book, added a few more drawings, and basically all we did was we had a water heater, heat exchanger, and go out to the system. And also in the case of a fan coil, we wouldn't have the heat exchanger, we could just go direct to the fan coil. Most municipalities accepted that, some of them didn't. They wanted the fan coil to have type L copper in it instead of M, which most of it was made by. So, but that was probably only one municipality was like that. But that's kind of where we went to from there. Of course, now the big thing about it all, of course, is should they even be using them? But the 7th edition there has the name teca on it. Okay, it's the it says the third printing because, of course, when we started the 7th edition, we were there at HWHA, and then halfway through we moved into being teca. We joined forces, and so we just have a couple more editions on there. That's where we went into the component drawings. So now instead of having a drawing with little boxes on it that you filled out, you had a main reference sheet. You put all your information up there, the address, you can see you got your pump schedules, your boiler loads, pipe sizing, that sort of thing, some of the notes that are on the drawings, and you would hand that sheet in along with, in this case, a direct return boiler system. So you'd have to take this drawing. We're going to have baseboard in the drawing, so that would be the next one you would have. So far we're up to 3 pages. Domestic water, right? And then your radiant heating system. So you got 5 pages that you would have to hand to the inspector, and he'd have to piece them together. Okay. So now we get away from that, and we've gone back to the single drawing. Okay, that's kind of basically what we've done. We changed some of the text, but it's very minor changes, just a little bit of wordsmithing here and there. Anywhere in the book where there is a significant change, then what we have is you'll see there's a line down the side that shows the change. But really it's very little. It's mainly the drawings that we had all the requests to do and change and that sort of thing. So this is the index for the drawings. So you can see we have a lot of drawings in this book. Okay, 3 pages of index just to show the drawings. You can imagine in the first book we ever issued, we had 3 drawings. Now with the index, it's 3 pages. So it's quite a bit of difference. Quite a bit of difference. And even having said that, we have another book that's going to come out that's going to have even more drawings in it. Okay, these will all be in there as well. Done over again, so they're all in one place. But I think there's 350 drawings right now. You can imagine. And I bet you we haven't even covered everything. Someone asked me yesterday, what about geothermal? And I just walked away. We could do another 300 drawings, right? So it's just another heat source. That's all it is, right? So you can actually take the geothermal system. There is a drawing in here with a buffer tank, and you can add that to the drawing, and away you go. It's the same idea. So we have the same sheets. Nowadays, people are using PEX pipe for some of their main supplies, so we have a pipe sizing chart for PEX pipe now as well. 1/2 inch up to 2 inch, so it's all there now because we get a lot of questions. People will take PEX pipe and use it instead of copper. Well, you know what? 3/4 inch copper is good for, I think that says 32,000. 3/4 inch PEX is only good for, looks like 30,000, but it might be 20,000. It's 20,000, yeah, it's 2 gallons a minute. So it's less. You can't carry the same much. Because even though it's called 1/2 inch and 3/4, PEX pipe has a thicker wall, so the idea is smaller. So you got different velocities and stuff. So we put a chart in there, which I'm sure is going to piss a lot of people off. But we kind of get used to that over the years. So here's what the new drawings look like. I think I have a laser thing on here. Do I? Yeah, I do. You can see this is a primary secondary system. So there's our primary, something we never did in the other drawings, right? Primary, secondary, we just threw a basic drawing together. But of course, all the boiler manufacturers today pretty much promote primary, secondary, especially high efficiency, because you need that flow. We got guys going in there and start messing around with flows, and you're buying new heat exchangers and those kind of things. So these have become very big, and I hate when that blinks like that. So here's our primary circuit. You can see this is our secondary. We have a domestic tank, baseboard, and a radiant system. So this drawing here is the same as those 5 drawings I showed you. It's all on one now. Okay, it just makes it that much easier. Not every drawing that we've produced is in here, and I just noticed this today because being the good guys we are, we talked about the hydronics and the forced air being together. I forgot to put drawings in there with a fan coil on it. So you have to use the baseboard for the fan coil. It's a heat emitter. It's a high output, right? So, but in the main manual, there is drawings full fan coils. Okay, they're all done as well.
Well, maybe just a note on the front page to that effect to save you all the hassle.
Right?
Just a note saying the fan coil goes in place of the baseboard.
Actually, we have drawings for it anyway. We have drawings for it. Now they have to buy our other book to get that one.
Okay.
Not that I'm trying to sell anything, but
No.
so you can see there's quite a difference, quite a departure from before. As well as we have right on every page is the legend to show what all these components are rather than written are. We eliminated some of the notes to clear things up, and we actually put the notes down here. The only notes that aren't on the individual drawings really are the notes that pertain to every drawing. So then there's still a few notes on there, but I think there's only maybe 3 or 4 notes, and that's it. And they're very simple things. Just to give you an idea, here we have our purge assembly that we always look for. I think we put them in the drawings in about 97, 98. But what we did was we added a note in there. So here's our purge assembly, but we put a note in the thing that you can put that wherever is convenient for yourself. So it's not, because what the inspectors were doing was making you have it there and nowhere else was acceptable. And it really can be in many locations. So we put a note in there that this is just one place. You can also put it wherever else that it will work at, kind of idea. The other thing was on a primary secondary, the use of check valves is required so that we don't get thermal flow through the secondary systems. So we also put a note in there to show that if you have 100% closing valves on that system, because in some cases on a secondary system like here, you'll have a pump and you won't have like a zone valve. But on the baseboard where you might have several zones off the secondary system, you'll have a zone valve. So you got a positive shutoff. You don't have to have a check valve on both supply and return. So we eliminated that hassle because they were making them put them on both, of course. So now we put a note in there to clarify that a little bit.
Do you specify what type of check valve, spring or swing?
No, we don't. I thought about that, but then are you putting it on a horizontal line? You're putting it on a vertical line, right? So we left that open. And the first guy that puts the wrong one in is going to know about it. It ain't going to work, right? So yeah, but it is important to think about that. And also the other thing was too is a lot of the pumps that are out there today have check valves built right into them as well. So you can buy like a teca1 or a Grundfos pump, and they'll have check valves right in the pump. So you don't even really need to have a check valve in the line. I'm not sure how we're going to get that through. The inspectors trying to convince them there's one inside there, but I think they'll learn from the paperwork and that. But most of the guys are doing that on the little guys, right? So here's the injection system in reverse return. Okay, reverse return is the way to go. Direct return is really not a good way, but that's kind of how we did the original, so we included them all in there. Direct return is pretty difficult to balance, but in a residential application, reverse return is pretty hard to get in there sometimes too. So this is kind of what we do. But all it is just showing the guys what we mean by reverse return. And you can see, those of you who aren't familiar, first piece of baseboard off or first heating unit off is the last one back. That's what reverse return is. And a direct return, it would go directly back. And depending on the distance between those, you could have a problem balancing because the balance valve can only go so far, kind of idea. So we kind of put that in there this time as well. From that, I don't want to go through all the drawings, okay, because we'll be here all night. And I don't want to be here all night. So this is the book, and I'm going to just look up because I can't remember exactly how many drawings are in here. There's our fan coil, Dave. Okay.
Got one.
Yeah. We've got several in there.
Thanks for helping.
Got several in there. That's my heating system in my house. So.
You couldn't be all at that.
No, that's right. That's the only way to go. I'm a firm believer in a combination radiant air system. So. I'm trying to 122 drawings in this book right now. Okay, that's how many drawings are here. Text is still pretty much the same, but the drawings are quite a bit thicker. So I can't remember. What did we say this was worth? I can't remember now.
$102 for the member.
$102 for the member,
Yep.
and $127 for non-members. Okay, and you can see they're all in nice color now. So if you have a color photocopy machine and stuff, away you go, right? One of the things we are planning to do, and I'm not sure how long it's going to take to do it, but we're planning to put these on a CD, so the CD is available as well, and that probably won't happen for maybe next year. And that will be so that you can enter all your information, then print the drawing. Okay, so you can have it that way instead of having it this way. Okay, but this is what the next book that's coming out is called the Piping Handbook.
Will the building inspectors accept a black and white copy of those drawings for submission?
Oh yeah. The only thing they insist on all the time is that the signature be in red ink or blue ink. It's got to be original signature. That's the only thing they've ever, and the stamp, the association stamp that goes on it. Okay, so that's kind of the one thing that's there. And the stamp goes on. They probably want it on every page, I would imagine, but there is a place for it on the reference sheet, a specific spot for it. So this is our piping handbook. I have 2010 on there. I think Catherine had October. I kind of overrode the PDF file, right, which we're not supposed to be able to do. So this is that same drawing again that we just looked at. It's going to be in there, but this is what the old drawing looked like. Okay, and I should be able to go backwards. And this is what the new drawing looks like. So quite a bit of difference in them. Plus we turned them right side up, right, instead of sideways. You have to turn the book around, that kind of stuff. So a little bit better. Trying to think where I had it, but I'll find it. Here's the index for the piping handbook. Okay, this is pretty extensive, and I'm going to we'll be able to tell from these numbers how many drawings there are. You can see we have primary, secondary with reverse return secondary systems. We have primary, secondary with direct return secondary systems. Plus we have reverse return systems, direct return systems, everything you could think of. Pretty much what we did was we took the book that we had with all the components and we made every possible combination that we could come up with, and even some that I just pulled out of the air and just kind of made up. I don't know if anybody ever did them, but I figured if I could think about it, someone probably did it, you know. So we're at, we also put in here something we didn't have before was some of the combination boilers where they're doing both domestic water and heating. They got built-in heat exchangers for domestic or separate tappings for indirect tanks. We have some of those in here. So we're up to that's 272. So 312 is where we're at. So this is the last page. So 9 pages of index for that manual. Okay, the index is bigger than the original guidelines. Okay, it's 4 pages in it. So that's kind of where we're at. Okay, there's a lot of different variations. You can see, basically, every drawing starts off kind of this way with every possible component on it, and then every variation of that drawing will be in there as well. So you'll have this drawing will be there, and you'll also have the exact same thing with the fan coil missing, or with the baseboard missing, or with the domestic tank missing, and so on, and every combination in between. That's how extensive the book has become. Okay, so if I get anybody today that sends us a drawing and says they need this special plan made, I doubt very, very much if we're going to come up with one, because I can't think of any other way of doing these things. So, unless you guys got a better idea. If you seem to think of more, you let me know. Here's one of those wall-hung boilers with the built-in tappings for domestic waters. You can see it's right here. And all of those boiler manufacturers, every one I could find, insist on primary and secondary. So you're not going to find a wall-hung boiler in our book without primary secondary. Okay, they all insist on that, because those heat exchangers and those boilers, you take that flow down to half of what is required, and you're putting a new heat exchanger in. Okay, they just don't take that kind of pressure. Okay, there's the other one with the heat exchanger built in. There's quite a few of those on the market. More and more coming every day. Europe is flooding our market with those things. I guess the economy's down there, so we'll flood Canada with it because we got so much housing going on here, right? Something else we've added this time, because these are becoming more and more popular too, is manufactured equipment, right? I mean, if you think back when I started, many, many years ago, we used to go to the wholesaler and buy a boiler, take it out to the site and build it. Okay, we'd buy so many sections and burners and stuff, and we put it together. Then we started buying package boilers. It's a hell of a lot easier to buy a boiler already assembled, right? Well, the same thing is becoming true on the piping side of the system. Whereas you can buy a boiler, plug it into your system, and go away. Okay, so we've included some of those drawings. This here is what people refer to either as a hydraulic separator or a low-loss header is another term they use for it. And this gives you primary, secondary, okay, because this becomes your primary circuit. This is your secondary system. Absolute 100% isolation between the two systems. You don't worry about check valves or anything on this side. Because in these things, provided you size it right, I mean, if you put too small of a unit in, you might have some problem. But this flow on this side will never change. No matter what goes on that side, you got 10 gallons a minute here, you are going to have 10 gallons a minute always. Okay, these are the things that manufacturers are making very common in Europe. ITT's got some now too, right? They're making some real nice ones. Yeah. Probably everybody else that I'm not familiar with, you know, teca probably has some and that. But this is a single unit. You can see there's a tapping, one inlet, one outlet kind of idea. There is, I don't know if I showed it yet, there are some that come with multiple ports. So you'll have somewhere in and out. This is your primary circuit again, and they have multiple tappings off them. There's all kinds of these things out on the marketplace. And what we ran into just a couple months ago, actually, was one of our members used this type of system. I believe Calefi makes a wide range of these sort of things. They use that type of system, and the inspector wouldn't let him go. He insisted on making the drawing and getting approval on it and stuff like that, right? Because there was no such thing. He didn't know what it was. He basically thought it was a heat exchanger, then he thought it was an expansion tank. You know, so it kind of went that way. So we talked about it. This is another thing that you're going to see out in the marketplace. This is your mechanical system already boxed as well. So you can look, if you look at our drawings, and we don't have time for that, if you look at our drawings, here's a pump, shut-off valves, check valves, bypasses, everything's all built into this one little box. You hang it on the wall, you connect to it. It's all plug and play. Okay? They have them for high temperature, or in this case, radiant mixed temperature. So you take one of our other primary drawings with all the pumps all over the place. Well, then now it becomes a little box that you hang on the wall instead of having all these pumps all over the place. So another unit that's kind of showing up from Europe and stuff. So there's drawings in there to show that, something we didn't have before.
You can see it's watts, Jim. It's okay.
What's that?
You can see it's watts.
Actually, it is. That is the drawing of watts. Yeah. It's the only one I can find. But you know, in all fairness, I didn't say it was watts, but you'll find probably 8 of those on the market under all kinds of names. It's the old branding thing. We make them for everybody, right? So we're not just for us, right? So, now, what I thought I would do now is just see if you guys can come up with a drawing that we don't have. You know.
Do you have parallel headers on the hydraulic separator? Are you shunting and...
Parallel headers, no, we didn't go to that extent because it's not used so much residential. It's a little, you know, more a little bigger. Well, I guess on a big custom homes, you know, you can get in those 10,000, 15,000.
Very efficient because, as you've been saying, it eliminates 2
Yeah.
pumps, right? So
Yeah, yeah. You didn't send me a drawing of that, did you?
I've got a drawing of that.
Yeah, but you should send it before I publish the book.
I'll just wait so I can come here and test you.
There you go. Because he's the one that recommended that we put a separator in the book, so that was you, right? Yeah, you sent me an email on that. So there we go. But we have so many different variations on the drawings and so much going on that, you know, there's just no way that we're going to go through them, so I don't even want to start on it, right?
If you were to start the process all over again 20 years ago, is the idea of this thinking and third-party inspection by the plumbing or the building inspector, is that the model that we should be pushing for in the next 5 years to clean up our industry?
It's the only way to clean it up. It's the only way. If you do not have inspection, you do not have any way to clean up the industry. Even when we started with this, I mean, we were dealing with inspectors who had no clue whatsoever. I mean, honestly, and there was no reason for them to know anything about it. And we work with them and we train them.
But there's still primarily one of the things that gets is the piping aspect of hydronics is hugely important for balance and flow. A lot of inspectors are still just looking to see if the safeties are there.
Yeah.
And some of the jobs that are still out there and still being installed to this day are horrendous.
Well, don't forget, not all municipalities do inspections either anymore.
Yeah.
And they're not as diligent as they used to be either. So that's where our training comes in as well. We're training the people to use it. Imagine up until I believe '95, we never even put balance valves on our drawings. We kind of had to implement our drawings in stages. Add a little more, add a little more. Every time we added a ball valve, we had a furor from the industry that it's going to cost $10 more for the job, right? So we did build it up in stages. When we put balance valves on all the manifolds, I took phone calls. People wanted to kill me because it was all my fault. I was on the committee list, so it was all my fault. They didn't bother Greg too much. I don't know why. It bothered me, but that's kind of what happens, and that's how we build. But until the inspectors would go out there, and don't forget, a lot of the radiant systems and the baseboard system, they're inspected by the building inspector. They're not even inspected by the plumbing inspector. The building inspector is going out there because he's checking the radiant tubing at the pre-pour. So that's when they do it. It's convenient. So we have to train the building inspectors what to look for, and the only thing they look for, 300 feet, 12-inch centers. That's all they look for, right? We would have customers would go out there and put in 6-inch centers, and the inspector would reject the job because it wasn't 12-inch centers, right? Send the cement truck away. I'm serious, they would. They send the cement truck away because it does not say 6-inch centers on the submittal that we would provide them, right? So these kind of things have gotten better over time. We've improved the guidelines over time, and these things are happening. So,
and what's the recourse if you're rejected for 6-inch centers? Is there an appeal board that
Nope.
the contractor can go to?
No, you go back to the registered designer, and he changes his design to show 6-inch centers, and you go back.
That's the procedure.
That's the procedure, yeah. That's what they do. So the guys that were working in the wholesalers and doing the design work and stuff, they would just take their paperwork and they would just redo it at 6-inch centers and send them on their way. It was a pain in the butt, but you know what? It was a pain in the butt for several months, and then everybody knew, hey, we can't do this. We got to make sure the paperwork's done properly first, right? So it's a learning curve. But you know what? It's the only way. It's the only way.
I'm firmly convinced that
Yeah.
business model is the only model.
Yeah. Yeah. If you don't have inspection, you don't have anything. Because, I mean, look at Vancouver. Vancouver has no inspection on heating systems. You got houses in there that are worth millions of dollars, and the system is a piece of crap, right? No one checks it. All they do is the city of Vancouver gets the homeowner to sign a paper to say they've accepted the heating system as installed by the installer. I mean, that's and there's a little note in there about barrier pipe and non-barrier pipe. That's it. So it can be a real problem. You go to Alberta now. Alberta has started to follow the model here, but Alberta is doing it province-wide. It's the provincial government that's involved. And, can't think of the fellow's name. But it's to the point where you actually have to have a tubing layout. You have to draw all the tubing and everything for every house. So they found a way around it. They just give the inspector the same drawing for every house. It's close enough. So, away you go. So different things. In Ontario right now, you have to have what they call a BCIN number, which has nothing to do with BC. And it has nothing to do with heating systems. It has absolutely zero to do with heating systems. It deals with the legal aspect of the building code. And this building code identification number is what it's called. So you go and you take this course, you pass an exam, and you know that you're not allowed to do this or you should do that. There's nothing whatsoever to do with the heating system, but once you have that number, you can go do what you want. You can design the heating system up to 8,000 square foot home and no one questions you. You know, so that's the start of things, right? But there's no inspection. Here's the paperwork.
If a heating system doesn't work, how do you deal with battles between the installer and the designer in the case of these drawings?
Well, you know what? I have to tell you, anybody installs a system, right? With these drawings, it won't be the piping's fault that the system doesn't work. It'll be typically a balancing issue, maybe, because they can put in all the fittings and stuff, but if they don't go through the trouble of setting it up, you could have rooms that don't heat, rooms that heat. The heat loss is done. Don't forget, every unit has a heat loss done. Typically, the heat losses, there's a lot of safety factor in there as well, that sort of thing. So, I have not seen a job installed properly and designed properly that hasn't worked since we put these guidelines in. And I can tell you there's many jobs in other municipalities still that have problems where there is no inspection whatsoever. That's just the way it goes.
I mean, I was at a job site about 2 months ago. All the paperwork was there, it was stamped by an inspector.
Yeah.
The person clearly had not followed the guidance. He was complaining about my pump and it was over-amping and burnt out.
Yeah.
What he had was he had like the supply coming out, he had a teed off, he had a pump there on the vertical. Up above it, he had 2 zone valves teed off, then he had an elbow coming back on the return, and a ball valve there to create resistance to push into the zone valves when he called it. He was pumping 2,000 square feet. Right?
Yeah.
And that was stamped. And when you look at the drawings, that did not appear in the drawings at all.
Well, yeah, and that's why I qualified. I said if it's put in the way our drawings say,
It would have worked.
it will work. But if the inspectors don't catch it, then they're not going to. And they don't inspect every job anymore either. They really don't. They don't have that kind of time.
So that was a 4,000 square foot home with 2
Yeah.
baths. 2 120 volts per month.
There you go. Yeah.
Brand new.
But it wasn't according to the design, was it?
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
But it was stamped. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. The inspector just grabbed the paperwork and away you go, right? And
We
that's
had more copper in that mechanical room.
Yeah.
And if you just done like a simple primary secondary loop,
yeah.
you could afford to like zone it probably 9 times.
Well,
It'd still be.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, what a lot of the unskilled labor does is they'll go in the mechanical room and they'll have the boiler there and they'll start to work with no plan in place, right? And they start, oh yeah, I got to put a T here, okay, and then off they go. And, oh yeah, I got to go here, and they add fittings, and they have no idea. And hopefully, when the CHT is rolling along, this ain't going to happen anymore. Don't forget, there is no training in hydraulics.
But his argument with me is that he had designed that 25 times that way.
Oh, yeah. So he's got 25 houses that probably don't work.
Was rubbish.
Yeah. Well, there's probably 25 houses that don't work, but people are living in them, and it's kind of close enough, right? According to a study by ASHRAE, they hired some group who does surveys. 97% of all homeowners are dissatisfied with their heating system, regardless of what kind of system it is. 97%, okay, are dissatisfied with it. That's North America wide. It's not anyone in particular. It's North America wide. It just shows you where our system. What's the very last thing anybody designing any building thinks about? It's the heating system. They don't even think about it. Got to have a whatever fancy design on the I can't even think of a name, and I just loaded my house up with this stuff. Crown mold around, all that kind of stuff. But mechanical room, they don't even know where it is. They don't care. That's kind of a bad thing. I think I've talked enough. You guys got to buy the manual. Okay, it's over there. We got some for sale. You can have a look at them. If you see anything wrong with the drawings, and when I say if you see anything wrong, I mean if you see something that won't work, not if it's just different, right? One of the things that as a committee, what we've been able to do on the technical committee is we never look at a drawing that is different. We don't care. Will it work? That's all that matters, because you can put these things in a million different ways, but will it work hydraulically is all that's the question. So if you see something that doesn't, let me know. If you come up with something that you think maybe should be in the next issue, let me know, and we'll do it. Okay, we always add these things. We're always adding things to a point. I'm going to say we're up at 350 drawings now, so we're not going to get much farther than that, I don't think.
The drawings that are coming out in January, what kind of price on are they going to be?
I have no idea. I have no idea. What did we say this was? 100?
To the member, 102.
Yeah.
And that's got 100 drawings in it.
There's 100 drawings in it. These 100 will be in the other manual as well because we slid them all in because one thing you'll notice, I won't do that. One thing you'll notice when you look through this manual, just start at the beginning, and you'll see the drawing numbers aren't necessarily in order because some are missing. Because what we did was we put in here the majority of the ones that are used most of the time. Okay, but we tried to keep the numbering sequence the same, so we have 1-2, 1-3, 4, 5, all the way through each individual one. But maybe drawing 5, 7, and 9 are not really relevant for the code book, so they'll be in the other book. So you might have, like for instance, this one. One goes up to, where is it? 7. So drawing number 1 goes up to number 7. So it's 1-1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, I know in this drawing there's actually 17 different ones of this type. So they're all in the other book as well. So that's kind of how we put it together. This is the more pertinent ones. Guys doing this stuff every day. You get the oddball stuff, that'll be in the other one. Or the fan coils still, they're all in the other one, that kind of stuff. But we didn't do any geothermal, but I thought I could find, it might not be in here because this is the basic one. But we do have drawings with buffer tanks, from the heat source and a buffer tank, which can be used for geothermal, solar, wood fired, whatever you want. It's all the same. It's a heat source, a buffer tank off the heating system kind of idea. Okay.
How about chilled water, yeah?
How about, no, we didn't get into chilled water. But it is something I suppose we could look at next time around, do some. I think what we're finding residentially, that is so wide open right now, too. One thing that we have to be careful is when we do a drawing, how inspection departments look at that, and that's the only way to do things. And when you get into a market like that, it's just developing, really. Residentially, it's still going, it's still growing, and you don't want to take new ideas and stifle them right away. I think we need to wait until we have a few more to deal with, that sort of idea. And that's almost the thinking behind not trying to put too many heat pump drawings in. I looked through our company manual from Europe on heat pumps, and they had like several hundred drawings with all of their own equipment because they make a lot of different equipment, different ways of doing things. I don't know how many different kinds of geothermal heat pumps they have over there, but they have so many ways of piping these things with packages and stuff. I mean, where do you go, right? I think to keep it simple, we have a heat source and a buffer tank. Then you have your manufacturer's information on this side, and then the rest of the information is in the book for the baseboards, fan coils. We don't really do baseboard off of a heat pump, but although in Europe, I don't know if you guys are aware, I come across heat pumps in Europe that do 180-degree water now. They can use them for producing domestic water.
Are these air source?
No, water source, ground source heat pumps.
Water to
yeah.
water.
Yeah, water to water. Yeah. I forget that air stuff, man.
You're breathing it, guy. It's good for your health, I hear.
Yes, it is, yes. Well, it depends on what's in it, I guess. Anybody have any questions?
One real simple question. I'm struggling a little bit as an airside guy between the two books, the future and the one that's available for sale now. I'm struggling about where the line lies between those two.
The other book is going to be a huge binder. We typically, with the code book, we try and stick with your average residential installations, and that's kind of where we go. If we took all of those drawings and put it in the code book's going to be worth a fortune. And because it is kind of a code book, we want everybody to have it, so we don't want to have a $300 binder loaded with drawings that really, in all honesty, most of the, probably 80% of the jobs will only use 10% of the drawings that are even in this book, right? So it's all when you get beyond that where they're going to need those other drawings and stuff, just so that we don't have to keep producing new drawings. I mean, because if someone goes out to a job site that's being inspected and they don't have a drawing, it can take a couple of weeks before that guy gets his permit, because it screws it up so bad. So we've tried to cover all that.
Will this second book with all the drawings be acceptable municipally?
Yes. Yeah, because what we did, because we are forward thinkers, right? We specified right in this manual that those books are acceptable. Okay, kind of snuck that in there somewhere. If I can find it, I'll read it to you. Is that, and that's the reason why we came up with that name we have for the book, because we had to put a name in here. So I don't know if it's the best name, but it's the only thing we could think of at the time to get in here. So we had to stick it the same. Just trying to find somewhere in here. It talks about the drawings, acceptable drawings, yeah, under here, and it shows that the drawings in these TECA guidelines or other Technica hydronic drawing publications listed by the association. Somewhere else in here it also has the title. I just can't find it right now, but it's in here as well. So those drawings are, and they're done exactly the same. I mean, you won't go to those drawings and see that those drawings all of a sudden have a bunch more stuff put on them that aren't in the guidelines. We still kept it to the bare minimum. Balance valve is only there when it's required. Check valve is only there when it's required. It's not all. I have a lot of similar drawings that we use in my company like this that are loaded with all kinds of other stuff on it. That if we put in the code book, we would have a war.
What's the overlap between these guidelines being, required over the previous guidelines? Do you actually have like an inspector, somebody still designing off the old RHWG?
We basically inform everyone that there is a new set of guidelines out. Okay, all the designers, when they get their stamp and all that kind of stuff, are supposed to be aware of the fact that they are, their certificate actually says that they must use the current issue of the guidelines. Okay, the way the municipal bylaws are written in, well, I'm going to say for sure, Burnaby, Richmond, and Surrey. I know those three very well. They're written in such a way that is the current guidelines that are to be followed, and they always give them. Yeah, they always give them some overlap and stuff like that. So yeah. And you know what? It always causes a problem. It always does. Inevitably, a guy's going to use the old book a year down the road, and the inspector's going to say no. Matter of fact, last week I had someone was using a 93 book. And he was doing a drawing. And he's talking to me about this drawing, and and of course the number was the same number. It was 2-4 or something like that. But it was nothing like what he was talking about. And it turned out his book was from 93 or something, right? Where we didn't have balance valves in then and stuff like that.
So when does this one come into play?
As soon as everybody's got it out in the marketplace, we have to let the municipalities know it's available. Typically, we're usually nice guys and we give the municipality a free copy. And they can buy all the rest of them, just let them have one. If we can, we get in and talk to them. Go around and say hi to them and show them the book and that. I do a lot of that because I know a lot of the guys, so I'll go in there and show them that. And then they will implement it and start. They will usually give their contractors a little bit of time and start warning them, you got to get the new ones, you got to get the new ones, and kind of stuff. And then one day, who knows, 3 months, 6 months down the road, whenever they feel like it, boom, they cut you off. And how they make those decisions, I'm not sure.
Well, the building code has a 90-day grace period.
Yeah, and I think they probably use the same thing, because it seems to be, actually it might even be longer than that they let it go. But they do let it go. Other than that?
Thank you, Leo.
All right, everybody can go home.
I hope you get some appreciation. I mean, this is done in volunteer time. Get some appreciation of the hours that are put in from different board members, and thank you for all the work you've done on this and hydronics.